they take their seats, then the show starts. Okay, all right. So whilst we wait for the judges to see, this competition is going to be a healthy rivalry. So at the end of the day, we want to be here informed, educated, and entertained. We're not living here with any unhealthy rivalry. We're not living here with any issues. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. It's going to be a display of eloquence, okay? A display of intelligence, and a display of lyrical dexterity. There are some of the presenters that I know personally not use or new words. So I personally am so excited for this particular event. Alright, so in the next few minutes, I've seen one of the judges will be waiting for the next two and we'll be starting. So enjoy some 2 minutes of music and then we start. So we are all set to get into action. We're not wasting any further time. I would like to introduce the judges for today's debate. We have 2 judges ready, so we'll invite them in, and then we get started. So the very first judge is one of the students' favorites. Always here to support the students in the activities that we do, whether CLM, academic activity, is always here to support. There's none other than Professor Emmanuel, the CPA champion. Let's put on the video. Alright, so the next judge, also a very good friend of ours, full of energy. He almost killed me today in the exam so much. God was so good. We came out alive. There's no other than Dr. Ernest Adar. What's going on? We have our astute judges seated right before us. We have our contestants occupying the front row seats. We'll get our accurate timekeeper to join us to keep time. Also join them in the high table, and then we'll begin. But before we do, we'd like to ballot. So the contestants will ballot, and then we'll see where that goes. If you have any prayers to say, now is the time. Some people believe that whichever number you choose, they have an influence on the outcome of the event. So if you believe it does, then say your final prayers now while we start. So at this point, each of the two contestants, you come, and then you pick a paper and a rebuttal. Each of you. So level 100, from the two presenters, each of you should come and let's do that quickly. It's just one person, sorry. One person from the team. All of them. Let's do that quickly. So my team is explaining the rules to them finally. In every game, every contest, there are rules. We had a formal meeting with them to explain the rules for them. So we are doing that one last time, so everybody knows what the rules are. The judges are also fully aware. The timer knows what time each speaker has to speak. Okay, so at the end of the day, nobody needs to feel cheated, but the rules was explained to just one group and not the other. So once we are done with that, we'll get started and we'll see which classes we'll be debating soon. All right. At the end of the day, we have Eric. You're still going to be deferred, or you think you'll be deferred? You're going to be deferred. Yeah? All right. Okay, judging from how your presenters are dressed, you don't deliver up to expectation. So whilst because we don't have much time, we would just like to officially begin the session. And this is our invite the Vice President of the Association, Honorable Iranga Asim, to say a word of prayer, so we officially begin the program.
Can we all close our eyes? Gracious and Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this occasion. Lord, we thank you for allowing all of us to gather here. Lord, as we are here for the first ever MSc Data Class debate, we are putting it into your hands and asking that it is successful and that the best class comes out on top. In Jesus' mighty name, I pray. Amen.
That's amazing.
Senior board chair, no.
They have just finished balloting and then the parents are looking very excited. But before I share the parents with you, I'd like one of our judges, Professor C. Champion, to say a few words for us with regards to the rules and expectations before we start.
Okay, so for the rules, the main speaker has 7 minutes. And then the second speaker will have 5 minutes. So both will have the 7 minutes. second speakers will have 5 minutes. When it's the time guest talk, you will make sure you will have the time allocated for the debates. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, let's start with okay, so that was too much time to start. But they are the parents. So we have a total of these classes. The game 300 class just left for COVID a few hours ago. So unfortunately, they were not able to take part. Then we have our beloved final year students, level 600, also currently engaged with clinical work. So a number of them are on the ward, and so they also fully represent. So that leaves us with the level 100, level 200, then 250, level 300, level 400, and level 500. Ladies and gentlemen, here are the parents. So for the first contest, for the second pair, we have level 100 speaking for the motion and speaking against the motion. Then for the third and final set, we have level 500 speaking for the motion and game 250 speaking against the motion. How the setting is looking like. As you can see, we have our judges seated right in front of us. Our two judges, a very beautiful timekeeper, second in command for the association. Then we have 2 seats at my extreme left and my extreme right. So the speakers will occupy those 2 seats. And then at any point in time, we have the principal speaker mounting the lectern to speak.
Okay.
When he or she comes, like the judge said, you have 7 minutes to speak, and then you follow through the rules like that. Of course, there's a rebuttal for the next set, for when they are done. All right. All right, so at this point, we invite the speakers. So those for the motion, you sit on my extreme left, those against the motion, you on my right. So level 400, speaking for the motion, we have Fred, that will be the main speaker, supported by Frank Morgan. And then, speaking against the motion, we have Fred Danso, who is for the procedure. Supporting him. We've heard from their supporters. I believe it's just fair we hear a few words from the speakers themselves. So at this point in time, I'll give each of the class, any of them, just a few seconds, 10 seconds, to say a few words, expectations, what we should look out for, and then we hand over to the judges to start officially. So I'll start with level 400 class. Fred and Frank.
This student, we wish every class the very best. But at the end of the day, we are certain to do.
few words for the house.
Alright, so I'm Michael and this is Fred. We just want to say we are here to show what we are made of. We are here to do our very best, we are here to have fun, and at the end of the day, it's a competition, alright, but then it's also a learning experience and a building stone.
Thank you very much. So at this point, we'll So from the timekeeper, they will be alerted. They have 7 minutes to present. So after 5 minutes, exhausted 5 minutes, and I'm left with 2 minutes. You'll be alerted, by which time, after the 2 minutes has also elapsed, it means that's it for them. Yeah. Yes, the timekeeper will alert you. Okay, so at this point, I believe we can start. Alright, so the contestants know the rules, the judges are ready, timekeeper is set. Audience, are you ready? Yeah! Let me get some excitement in the house. Okay. So without wasting much time, I'll call on the main speaker for the motion, Mr. Fred Bago, to speak.
Chair the house, proper educators, fellow debaters, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The motion before the house today is AI tutors should replace traditional lecturers in preclinical education. And I, Rebuttal Jr. of the class of level 400, strongly stand for the motion. Before we delve into why we stand for the motion, I want us to understand what is an AI tutor. An AI tutor is basically a system-based software which is equipped to assist students in educational pursuits. It's a revelation for us to choose why we need to stand for the pursuit of AI to achieve academic excellence. And I believe that this will go into my first point, which goes AI lecturers are more accessible as compared to our lecturers. With regards to AI tutors are accessible 24 hours as compared to our lecturers. It will interest you to know that what happens when the lecturer is sick. What happens when the lecturer is inaccessible? Doesn't mean that the students are left without grasping the concept, because mind you, we are left to write the exam in every 2 weeks. And what happens when students don't grasp the concept? They end up not being able to gain the required grades that they need to go for the exam. But with AI tutors, students can learn at the comfort of their home, at the comfort of their home, and still grasp the concept that they would need to be able to equip them with the basic skills and knowledge to attain significant and to be able to pursue medicine and be good doctors. The second point I'd like to delve in is that AI tutors, as compared to our lecturers, break away from the one-size-fits-all form of tuition and rather give people a holistic and also give people a system of learning whereby they will be able to learn at their own pace, at their own time, and at their own rate. Why am I saying this? With AI tutoring, or let me go with the lecturer tutoring first. With our lecturer tutoring, what happens when the student does not understand anything the lecturer has to say in the class? Because the lecturer form of tutoring that the lecturers give us gives students the level only if they are good students. What happens to the students who are weak like myself? I'll be left behind. No. AI students gives us the opportunity to study at our own pace, at our own rate, and at our own time. To be able to comprehend and understand what we are supposed to tackle within the time frame and within our own guide. The last point I would like to take on before I drop the mic is that AI tutors, as compared to our lecturers, but with the help of AI tutoring helps to integrate all sorts of knowledge from every walks of life. So in a place whereby students are not able to really grasp the concept as compared from their lectures, they are able to go on to AI tutors to help them grasp the concept and also to run for emotion and not an emotion. Because this content is against our lectures. Rather, it's a debate for us to choose the right for the right to
traditional lectures with AI. Now let me frame the motion in a way that will suit the house. Before I proceed, let us be honest about what the proposition is truly asking. That is my opening. They're asking us to remove the human being from the earliest and most formative years of medical training. year 1, year 2, year 3, where students first learn to think like doctors. It is where professional identity takes root. The proposition here wants to hand that scientific process to a machine. Strongly disagree. The opposition says it's not yet, not entirely, and no one we are fully ready to applaud its consequences that comes to it. Now, I move on to my first one. Medicine is learned in relationships, not just information. And how evidence back what I'm saying. The position will tell you that AI can deliver more content than it said, and than any human lecture. Let us, for the sake of argument, consider that point here. I mean, we all use AIs doing a midnight serious questions that your lectures will probably not be processing. And I think some of these lectures still, use AI to send their questions. So we are considering that point. But it still misses the point in time. Pre-clinical medical education is not primarily about content delivery. It's about professional socialization, learning to think, to feel, and to act like a physician. That evidence is unambiguous on this. The process is fundamentally and humanly relational. You learn by mentorship. You learn from your lectureship teaching. They're able to give you. They're able to know that this student does not get it, and then they are able to go a concept for you. AI cannot do that. AI gives you questions you solve. Sometimes the answers are all CCCC. You choose all the CCC. You do all. The AI comments you. Great job. You have 10 over 10. You are catching up. But truly, you don't believe yourself. You are not up to pass what you are there. You are just recognize the trend that all the answers are CCC, and you are choosing CCC. By the time the class gets to know that, this is a struggling student I have to mentor. This is a struggling student I have to pay attention to. And so that's what we are struggling for. The human relationship we have with them, and AI does not have that relationship with them. Now my evidence, please take the now, a systematic scoping review found that the key factors shaping professional behavior among lecturers include mentorship and role modeling, and that the formal and hidden curricula heavily influence students' socialization into the medical community. A 2026 commentary warned that AI is deepening the trend of students learning medicine without fully becoming making it easy to substitute the legal competence for youth participation and peer switching to the burden of identity formation from institutions to individuality. And we are strongly against that. My second argument, AI hallucination. AI hallucinations are a patient safety risk in disguise. Now, the proposition will promise you consistency and reliability, but you can always go to the AI, you are really verify much information. But how many of us are like to ask, after getting information from the AI, we go back to verify that what the AI is giving us? I have evidence on my phone that even when you're using Cloud AI, it tells you Cloud AI can make mistakes. And so you need to verify or something. You get it? Now, AI is liable to making mistakes. Yes, our human lectures will concede the fact that sometimes make mistakes. But for that, we can challenge them in class. We can correct that mistake, and then even in the next lecture, AI does not give you that. Now, AI doesn't hallucinate. They generate confidence. So now, see, what number AI is, even if one is giving you the answer wrongly, it is presenting it confidently. And if you're a dumb student and you don't like to verify information, you think that that's the right thing to do. And now that's risk involved. That risk is irreversible. That you cannot go back to correct it. Madam Chair, the opposition is not telling that AI has no place in medical education. It does. It can supplement, it can support, it can provide practice questions at night, summarize complex pathways, and help students who need a second explanation of the typical topic. A supplement is not replaced. Supplement is not replaced. Medicine is not subject to download. It's a profession you enter through relationships, through accountability, through the lived experience of being mentored by someone who has stood at the bedside and felt the weight of what it means to be a doctor, not a machine, not an algorithm. The proposition asks you to hand that experience to a machine that hallucinates, that is liable to make mistakes, that carries Western bias, that sometimes there are some variations in the white that are not in the black, and we are not aware of. But then the AI gives you because it's from the Western world. That fails when the power goes out, and that cannot be professionally held to account when they get something wrong. We ask you to remember that the student training our clinical lecture hospital will be treating patients in our hospitals tomorrow. The standard we set for the education must be worthy of that responsibility. Thank you.
All right. So we've heard the main speakers for both classes. We can feel the energy in the room. But just so our judges can judge properly, they appreciate if during their speaking moment when they are speaking, we be a bit tight. They can give all the energy that's well up in us right after they are done with their submission. Okay, let's do what to again. Whilst they're speaking, let's do our best to maintain some silence so that we can applaud them accordingly when they are done. Trust me, they will not be created by the level of noise you make. I can see some class green agenda. They will shout more so that their class will win. My judges are impartial, unbiased, in fact, let me end it. That's what we'll call the supporting speakers to also address the house. So leave the supporting speakers up to 5 minutes. So after 3 minutes, they'll be notified at which time we'll have 2 minutes to wrap up. So just as we did for the earlier class, I'd like the founder to start.
Thank you. The house, and all of that is things and things of it. Before I start, our opponents made very solid points. I believe the whole house has to. But I would like to ask them, whenever your teacher comes in front of you to explain concepts, they give you objectives. Do they really finish teaching you all their objectives they promise to teach you? When the lectures are also accessible, they build a relationship with you to teach you and make you understand. At the end, is it everyone who understands? Is it every question that is answered at the end of the class? No. Now, I also want to find out from my co-teachers that when lectures come, not every lecture is up to a standard that every student, the weak, the strong, the medium can understand whatever they say based on the words they use, the way they express themselves, and even the experiences they share, which is not going to be the same for us or when we go to the hospital or the clinical years. Now let me start. As we said earlier, AI is a software tool. It's not a tool that causes students to over-rely on it. It's a thinking tool. So if students are using the tool as a thinking tool, it's rather building their minds to be able to analyze questions, to be able to analyze situations. And first of all, pre-clinical years are years where we build knowledge in our banks, in our brains. We are trying to understand concepts. We are not trying to just stream information. And if our teachers are not able to do this for us 100%, then that's where we have students who are very good and students who are very bad. They are all going to be doctors. So let us pay attention. If we are going to have doctors, we want to have doctors who are excellent, who know what they are about. So therefore, I support the fact that AI should be replacing teachers, especially when teachers cannot deliver their work 100% for every doctor who graduates to have almost the same level of information in their heads. Now, when AI is being used, my opponent would say that over-reliance on AI will create weak minds. Well, that's true, but what actually happens? AI is programmed to use the Socratic method of explanation, where it doesn't just feed students with answers. No, it's rather teaches them how to analyze situations, to bring information out, and to be able to understand different forms of them, to be able to survive in the environment. That doesn't just depend on teachers' experiences. We all know that the experiences of teachers don't even play out in our environment sometimes. Also, the experience of teachers, as I've already mentioned.
You have 2 more minutes.
Yes, please. I'll continue. So, now, our opponent said that mentorship is a way of learning, right? And students are going to rely on mentorship to be able to understand from their teachers, from their past excellence. They are also going to learn from all these things. But then, what's AI offering us? There's a personal kind of relationship AI has with people as well. Though it can't compare to that with a human, but there's an interactive kind of session where you ask AI replies, It's not when someone someone just counts and gives didactic lectures, and all you can do is to ask a few questions. Some of them you don't really understand. You have to carry the burden of explaining the things which you don't understand. And I'm sure most of you do this with AI. So if you rely on AI, what you save the time of sitting down for long to try and understand concepts that just relate to you, but use a rather short time to be able to understand them with AI. We are business people and want to make more of our time. If we pay the fees, then we have to make more of our time with the fees we pay. AI will deliver this exceptionally well compared to our lectures, and I believe that AI should replace lectures. Thank you.
The chair, the House, panel of judges, co-debaters. At the end of this debate, the proposition asks you to trust a system that is fast but unsafe, accessible but unequal, and intelligent but unaccountable. That is not a system fit to train doctors. Now, the proposition is saying AI teaches better. Medicine is learned through people. You win because doctors are not just databases. They did. Now, the proposition is saying that AI tutors are also more accurate. The proposition confuses consistency with correctness. AI delivers answers confidently, even when they are wrong. Unlike human errors, those errors are harder to detect and impossible to hold accountable. A human mistake is correctable, an AI mistake is scalable. Yes. Okay, so I want to also say that efficiency is meaningless. When they go around saying that we should rely on AI to teach us, they are not looking at the fact that AI can also lie to us. Now, I like what Frank did when he went around saying that. I like what Frank did when he went around saying that it's best to rely on AI teachers. Now, AI is here to support. AI is here to supplement. But the main thing we are looking at here is AI looking to replace the lectures. He went around saying that AI is here to support. Meanwhile, he's supposed to move for the motion that AI is here to replace the lectures. Not move for the motion that AI is here to support. This debate is not about whether machines can teach. It is about whether we trust them to shape the doctors who will one day hold human lives in their hands. On that question, the proposition has already failed. Alright, the fact that AI is also going to remove biasness, that's a very big lie. Now AI is even more biased than we think. And then we have some sources there that you can look at to prove that AI is actually biased. The House, I would like to say that in the debate about training future doctors, the side that guarantees safety, accountability, and real-world reliability must win, and that side is the opposition side. So anyone that decides to step against the opposition side in saying that AI is needed to replace lectures, AI is needed because AI is very accurate and all of that, it's pure lies. Now, sometimes I try to wonder, can we even relate it to fallacies? Whatever they said, is this strong man? Is it right? Maybe fallacies cannot be able to prove it. It's more like false dilemma, I believe. So I stand here strong and saying that we are going against the motion AI should replace lectures. Thank you.
Okay, so far we've heard from the level 400 and level 200 class. That was a good show to begin with. We have the next theme with the 100 and level 200. But before we do, we'll ask the contestants with the 400 and 200 to peacefully exit the stage for us while we do that. So let's do that for them one more time. That's it. So after this after all 6 classes have had the opportunity to speak. So at this point, we would like to invite level 100. Speaking for the motion, we have Yati, Jojo, speaking against the motion, we have the Nigerian rep. Is the person Madam Elwin Paula. So just 5 seconds, let me hear from them. I do this to give the contestants the opportunity to test the microphone, of course, and also clear their throats before they begin speaking. So just 5 seconds. Let's have your few say a few words to the house.
Okay, so it's our first time in this debate, and we are feeling quite discussed, especially going after against such a strong class. Hearing a lot about it. Thank you
very much. Mary and Kirsty, a few words to the house. Thank you very much. So what was the last time? Just last debate for the previous 2 classes, we do say for this. So it's level 100 speaking for the motion and level 300 speaking against the motion. So at this point, we invite Benny.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, before officially address this house, I'd like us to ensure that we are in the same era. I need you to understand the era that we are in right now. Now, somewhere it was visual instructors are conveying information. Somewhere in the diagnoses are being made by data minds. Now I'm being too abstract. Let me come. Somewhere in Kolebu, AI diagnostic tools are being used. Here in UCC, AI-powered learning platforms are being deployed to them. Now, what exactly am I driving at? What the point I'm trying to make? The point I'm trying to make here is that AI has already been partially integrated. And unconsciously, we have accepted that it's a fundamental instrument in our life, especially in education. Now, it's full implementation necessary. That is the real question here today. Now that I have your attention, good afternoon, Honorable Chair, distinguished panel, brilliant audience. I am Anna Venice, and I represent the competition team, and we firmly support the motion that AI teachers should replace traditional literature in pre-clinical education. Now, before I even proceed to present our argument, allow me to explain some key points. AI teachers here are the extension of the intelligence of human instructors. For example, osmosis and algorithms. And replace here suggests that AI tutors represent lecturers and deliver their information in dynamic data. It's not necessarily an abolishment of the presence of human lecturers in medical education. Now, obviously, there's a problem with the current traditional system. That is why we are debating and assessing it to see whether there are better options. Here's the crisis that I want to highlight in the traditional method that we have right now. Now, the World Health Organization reports that the doctor-patient ratio is 1 to 10,000. Now, how exactly is this a problem? I need you to understand that lecturers are practicing physicians. As they are teaching students, they are also working in the hospital. Now, how exactly is this affecting the medical education right now? The lecturers here are having a responsibility to 10,000 patients who this one goes to. They are having a responsibility to the students that they signed a contract with UCC for. And at the same time, they are having a responsibility to the intellectual body that they are associated with. Now, this clearly suggests that the human lecturers we have right now and overshared resources, they cannot be as efficient as we expect them to be, especially for the medical students who are in their pre-clinical year. Now, who are the stakeholders? Who are these affected? It's first affecting patients. Secondly, it's affecting the lecturers themselves, and primarily, it's affecting students in their pre-clinical education who need more education, but there's no time for them. Now, at some point, Chair, we have to realize that certain systems that are playing have problems, and there are new solutions that need to be employed to make them better. What is this new solution that we are suggesting? AI tools. Now, how exactly is AI going to address this crisis that I just highlighted? Now, AI is efficient and it's adaptable. this AI lecture or this AI system. Now the lecturers will upload the knowledge that they have to this AI system and send the algorithm to teach the student the way the lecturer will if he's not around. Then as the students interact with the AI system, the AI studies their patterns, studies their references. And in the case a unique teaching style, I'll take for example a student who is a visual learner. Every day he comes to class in the traditional system. Obviously, it's failing him because he's a visual learner, but all the traditional lecturers do is to talk. It's obviously not going to understand what he's actually doing. But with the AI tutors, they can understand that, oh, this person is actually a visual learner. And then they can study him, realize that, oh, he understands better with pictures, he understands better with videos. Then it tells an explanation that is unique to him, and he understands it, retains it. And now he's more efficient to employ that man. Because mind you, great human years deal with knowledge, they deal with understanding concepts, and not necessarily clinical interaction, because that's very few people in years, even though it's not absent. Now, the second benefit of AI in addressing this crisis is that AI is versatile. As I mentioned earlier, if you were following what I was saying, we are in an era that is defined by artificial intelligence. And right now we are in 2026. But AI is still being used in medicine for diagnostics. If you still follow what I was saying earlier, it's being used in diagnostics. Now, we are training students right now in their clinical years to become doctors by 2030, by 2031. And in those times, AI will have advanced. Now, we can't say that, oh, we should allow the students we have now not to get used to AI. They have to interact with this AI system. They have to be versatile with it, conversant with it. So by the time that they are fully made doctors, they'll be able to actually be better doctors because they understand how to use this AI system. They understand how exactly it works. So if they are being put in a situation where they are supposed to work with these AI, they won't be found wanting because they can fully adjust to it. Now, we have highlighted that the main crisis that is facing the traditional system right now is inefficiency. And how is this affecting the students that they are not able to grab the knowledge? Now, as our proposition is coming, if they agree with us that yes, the main crisis that is facing the traditional system is inefficiency, the best solution is AI tutors. But if they think there's a different solution, they should address that here. But if they think that, oh, the crisis that is facing the traditional system right now is not even the inefficiency of human lectures, but something else, then they should address that here and tell us what exactly is the crisis that is facing the traditional system right now. If they are able to do that, chair, you cannot count them the greatest in this argument.
And necessarily they attempted to validate the lead like finish the whole problem. We can't necessarily do that. We need to understand why they are so inadequate or so harmful, so bad that we need to replace them totally. They didn't do that. They attempted to balance from once again. They never did. We also need to understand why AI will do a general based on mechanism and in the way it works necessarily. Can't one, we hold accountable, and two, the study make autonomous decisions. And this is going to be a same problem. So first of all, we need to understand from clinical education. The clinical education is to let students introduce them to so that's to introduce students to learn how to think and then how the rest of them, for example, how to spell out English into things. And also let them understand how to integrate their kinds. So this thing is critical because it needs to from the cognitive architecture of medicine. Now we're only going to clinical medicine at this point. All this integration is already done, but there are just ways to apply this into practice that's already done. So this is also referred to by functions and medicine. The critical thinking is essential for patient care. This is referenced by PMC and IDFC. The critical thinking is one of the important ways of providing quality. So then going on to AI tutors, where our hospital is necessarily how the AI tutors are made. The AI tutors necessarily are numbers, and they are being used as support to which has already we need to understand that they are supplementary. And in the sense that there's already research for facts the fact that they are necessary. So for example, this is seeing there's a randomized control study that shows that students actually learn better and learn more in less time. Right? And this is done by testing at 2005. So there's already a general consensus. So then going on to how AI teachers are made. So we need to understand that first of all, AI teachers work on machine learning. Machine learning is a broader field where algorithms learn patterns from data to make predictions. So that means that these AI are not necessarily human mind readings where they are able to generate, but they're just based on predictions and data that's. Another thing we need to understand is the deep learning. This is also referenced by Hinton 2015 et al. That deep learning allows computational models composed of multiple processing layers to make information. That then also leads to the black box effect. So black box essentially is when AI systems can't make decisions. Well, this is necessarily when the black box problem is when AI systems make decisions in a way that is not transparent. So for example, if I bring a question into AI and ask it to explain, it will go on and on and on and on. But can't necessarily give you how you can arrive at that decision. That means that in that case, if you're going to make students just focus on AI, they're going to be able to give answers without necessarily having a clinical basis to that. And this is going to lead to lots of other content. I'll be highlighting this point. So why there's no need to make AI? So conversation comes about the fact that then if you will not understand the convenience and all of that. But then it still doesn't put how the West students, even with that regard, is still going to get it. That means that it still goes on to our point how you can use AI to necessarily supplement, right? So then going on to our main argument. So let's just another information providers. And that's what AI, that's what position trying to pay. That these AI are just going to give you the information. And necessarily if you remove these lectures, there's nobody going to get to verify this information. So what then happens? That makes producing doctors who are very confident in their wrong mistakes, and they're going to be backing that. Another thing we need to understand is the fact of the back. But then also, due to the capitalist nature of AI, we need to understand that there's also bias aspects to it. So bias necessarily AI works on training data sets. And then these training data sets are made by huge companies such as Google or Amazon. What we need to understand is that these corporations are based in the US. That means that their main data sets are going to be based on white people and necessarily that regard. That means that they're going to have underrepresented minorities. That's most of us see. That means that these AI mechanisms are going to understand how, like, they're not going to necessarily see how, for example, how skin or dermatological problems will skin or African skin type. So then what happens in that regard? These are the main consequences we get. One, it is a 5-tier framework, right? So one, removal of lectures, there's lots of verification AI today. But then two, I'm going to have discussion medical. Because AI is trained on these empirical medical data, which is Western-centric and low bias and underrepresented African minorities. That's another thing. Yeah, right? This is a cross perception. This is the black box effect. Like I said, the AI is going to explain how they are right. I'm going to produce it, then the chefs are able to memorize AI images without meeting. And let's go to accept this argument without questioning the context of it. That means that in a state where clinical medicine, where not everything goes in the direction of it, they're not going to know what's right. On the fourth tier, right, we need to understand that it's called clinical medicine. Medicine requires adapting to necessity. And in the case where the AI only follows one framework, that means that the physicians are not able to work on the same of necessity, right? So then going on to another point about accountability. One thing we need to understand is that at the point where we're able to replace this AI, we're able to replace lectures with AI. So for example, if a lecturer is wrong about something, you can go out in and challenge it. And now the AI, okay, who are you going to challenge? Are you going to challenge the people? Are you going to challenge the student that adopted that AI? You see, it doesn't make sense. At the point where this accountability is necessarily dispersed, they're going to have that. Because there's free going to pay Google is going to pay, and there's no going to have accountability in that regard as well. So they're going on to the stakeholder engagement. We need to understand that stakeholder engagement and very how students are going to understand that it's going to be the practical help of society and patients in general, right? So we need to understand that medical students, we need them to have clinical structure. That means that at the point where there's any uncertainty, they're able to adapt. But then secondly, we need to understand that why the society or patients benefit. Society and patients are going to benefit because of one, system healthcare outcomes. They're going to producing more students that have a better clinical understanding of what they're doing, right? But at the point where there's going to be full over-reliance on AI in hospitals, where we start at one, they're just going to memorize the AI. So it means in every situation of not being that is where the symptom is always going to be down to one answer. They're not going to explore any other alternatives as well, right? So then the final way. So in the world, we probably see the point where there's speed and convenience. But we promise you image, we promise you one, accountability. Not 10 clinical policies. In a world where at least you have AI augmenting or AI supporting what the lectures, you're going to have students who are able to adapt multi
various events. That means they might have more clinical competency. When they necessarily even challenge their lectures, right? And also the next thing and go on. So, one, what this means in our work is that the lectures are the final responsibility for operating what. For example, there's a boy in my class called George. Just so this has the lectures about Stanford. And another thing that's very important is that the world where they receive this count, and it's fun. And it's fun. I think they're able to go for it. I hope you consider it in your final
All right. I hope we are all able to keep up with that pace. At this point, I'd like to invite the supporting speakers to give their rebuttals. You have 5 minutes each.
I start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Good day to all the house around, educators, fellow graders, and government. I stand before you here today on the second speaker position of an impeccable motion, sure enough to influence the movement of the nation, the world as a whole. I am here to do, and in this speech, and the speech made by my brilliant co-leader, you are giving a view of the current daughter's patient issue, how the lectures are bent out, torn between the life they are sworn and oath to save. The students, they are desperately interested in teaching, and their intellectual group, they are obliged to contribute to. A certain level of productivity is required across all these areas, but currently is proving to be a difficulty, which is leading to a decline in the development of the nation as a whole. You are giving a view of pre-clinical students failing not because they are incapable, but at the bottom of a priority list written in exhaustion. You are taking through the belief that AI tutors replacing traditional lectures, that is the AI providing a supporting role for the lectures, creating a hybrid system, is the best solution. I am here to extend on the words of my co-debater, as well as to shed light on the blatant fabrications told and yet to be made by the opposition. Rebuttals from the opposition. So the main speaker from the opposition made a statement that there is a risk of the AI being biased and it's making errors. We are well aware of this caveat, but my opponent is relying on a perfection fallacy. The idea that because AI isn't 100%, we should stick with a human system that is also flawed. We do not advocate for blind AI, but for a verified intelligence. By keeping lecturers in support, we create a double-layered safety net. The AI handles the massive volume of data while the lecturer acts as the chief auditor, shifting them from data transmitters to quality controllers. Another statement was made on the fact of passive learning and passive learning. Traditional lectures are the definition of passive learning. I mean, students sit in the class and listen, with just a minimum amount of time to ask the multitude of questions going through their brain. This is not enough for a student to gain attention or gain understanding in such a class. Our AI tutors are built on the Socratic method. They are programmed to refuse to give direct answers. Instead, they guide students through clinical reasoning process, forcing active recall, which is one of the best ways in order to retain information. A student can sleep through a lecture hall empowered by memorizing a test bank, but they cannot make their way through adoption of an AI tutor that tracks their logic in real time. As the opposition may come to say that it builds or it supports cheating. No, it does not. The opposition may again come to say that it disrupts human interactions and mentorship. Let's be honest about the traditional model. Sitting in the 20th row of a 300-person lecture hall is not mentorship. True mentorship requires interaction, which these 1 or 2 hour course classes do not present. Our model replaces this world of science with a 24/7-hour feedback. You have the AI, the system is supposed to know that. Whenever you want to use the AI, you don't have to now call a lecturer or describe whatever private time you're having. The AI is to support you and provide you detailed solutions to your needs. By providing the immediate personalized attention, the lecturer physically cannot give to hundreds of students. Furthermore, the AI flags students who are struggling in certain areas and alerts the lecturer as to where intervention is needed. Now, an extension on why AI is a core solution for both the problem of the students and the lecturers. It sets a great foundation. AI tutors immediately analyze response and correct mistakes on the spot, explaining errors step by step and generate follow-up questions provides simulations with subjects like anatomy and others to help retain content, and delivers suitable notes tailored to the specific needs according to the learning patterns or styles of their students. And AI also receives quick updates in short amount of time. A pre-clinical student studying how the heart pumps blood. The student listens to the lecturer, gaining often gaining surface level and delayed understanding. While the AI breaks down the cycle of how blood pumps and generates interactive diagrams. This ensures a good foundation of understanding, ensuring easy assimilation into the clinical level and builds confidence. Remember, no doctor, how great or how noble they are, always have to the students. The education sets the foundation for doctors. The pre-clinical students will get assimilated into the clinical level and eventually become doctors. My opponent spoke about there being equity without the AI. Well, I'm going to say it does not. First of all, we are all in different areas. Sure, those who are getting information from maybe the doctor that has taken that for research in a mind-boggling or a mind-breaking achievement or aspects. While here you are not able to get. Thank you.
These are really fast. I start my speech in 3, 2, 1. For somebody to win in this debate, that doesn't have to do 15 right. First, the AI is centrally safe, that the content they deliver is reliable enough to remove accountable human resources. But second, they have to prove that AI are fully equivalent to what they can deliver, not just content, but the professional specialization, the great reasoning, and the human body that can explain to a decision. The third thing is that the replacement is the right policy. That is to say that not when the engineering matures, but when the infrastructure gaps are closed. What this then means is that the argument you get from all of what they said is that, oh, let's give you time to work because of implementing what we are doing. That is not a debate. The debate is to tell us that why we should replace them and why in our work things are bad, right? But what do we get from Elwin? Elwin tells you like very important things, right? Elwin tells you that these are complementary to most one. Comparable performance in theoretical knowledge has been proven that there is no statistical significant difference in the AI-based tradition. And that says that there is little effect on theory course leaked out as says that. But the second thing is that there is dependence on human-led frameworks. That is to say that for this AI tutors to work, you need human-led frameworks to make it work. What does that mean? That if the human frameworks are flawed, you can't get the AI in the long run. So we need to maintain them. Now, on the case that closes this debate is on the case of hallucination. Now, when we talk about the hallucination, what we are just talking about is that we have logically inconsistent, factually incorrect, and also supported by authoritative critical evidence in what the AI is. Now, we say in a research done in MIT shows that frequently exhibited over the AI models frequently exhibit overconfident generating output at high sensitivity, even if the information is wrong. What this then means is that it shows that their AIs are 34% more likely to use confident language, like definitely certainty, and even without that when they are generating incorrect information. And that is what this looks like is that nearly 1 in 4 medical AI response contain fabricated information. Secondly, 44% of most hallucinations are classified as major and can impact diagnosis and management. But thirdly, many detected hallucinations are only 55%. What this means is that detection worsen as complexity increases. What these people don't get in the debate is that they try to tell us that, oh, there will be no harm because these things will come and give us like a lot of benefits easily. But the fact that is broad is that Currently, there are over 200,000 that are caused by errors, even in what you have. But these adjudications are giving us more outstanding errors. If you go into their case, it means that more they don't care about the patient. That's why they are bad. But we now want, we think about the people, we want our world, we don't see why we should change them. We think our world is better outcome, right? Unto when our 2 minutes. So why our world better, right? Now, on systematic harm, the systematic harm we get in their world is much more because one is corrupted fundamental knowledge. What these means is that because there are a lot of hallucination, the person learns that in the pre-clinical stage, and it's highly difficult to reveal that the person gets to the clinical level. What this means is that will transcend into the clinical years and will later affect the patient in Jesus. Now, the patients are still holding this way in the treatment, they say don't care about the tools and data, but they increase the mortality and morbidity of these patients. So on weighing, why do we weigh this debate is simple on probability one. At 50 to 40% hallucination rate, error delivery is not just a rate, certainty upon the full curriculum. With thousands of content interactive per student, the probability of at least uncorrected hallucinations can consolidate. But secondly, on magnitude of impact, medical errors, as I said, are increased about 200,000 preventable deaths annually. So if you give a world where you can increase the harms and the error, it means that there's a very manipulative approach to that. That's why these people are bad, right? You don't need to get into their case. Now, on reversibility, because the person has learned that over time, 3 years, 4 years, 7 years, the person has not consolidated the information. And that's why I think these people, they don't really understand it. They don't know the last. They tell us that, oh, there will be bailouts, ETC. The reason why they bail out is not giving a case in today's debate is going. Now, individuals who even go into medical community are PhD holders. They are not necessarily all of them being the clinical and research setting. That's not really the case. But secondly, even if we think that bailout works, we are not getting the outcomes we want because the errors are there. And the errors mean that we have a negative outcome. That negative outcome is what we mitigate. They don't care about the patient, these people. That's why they are bad. Now on impact, we talk about very strong stakeholders, right? Patients, medical students, and regulators. That is what we are doing. They are bad because they are not bad.
You are only being entertained and you are learning the thing also, right? Agenda. Alright, so far we've done 4 classes. The first 2, 400, and then against level 200. We just saw that between the level 100 speaking for the motion and the level 300 speaking against the motion. Let's give that for them one more time after. Let's look at my DJ. So the entertainment of music occasionally. But that was so much time. We have the last 2 classes. So it looks like these 2 classes, there's a lot of excitement and anticipation in 2 classes. Anyway, we'll find out shortly. The class speaking for the motion is the level 500 class. So the next one is the 250 class. just as we did for the previous 4 classes,
This is not a match.
I'd like each of the classes, they have 5 to 10 seconds to say a few words and also test their microphone. So.
I just want to see what I get to win.
Believe they are here to win. Let's find out if the level 20 class are also here to win.
All I'm going to say is there's a reason why they didn't bring AI to come and debate for them. And they got human beings.
Say that they will defer all the other classes. And then they will find out if they will indeed defer or they will defer. Ladies and gentlemen, without wasting much time, I'll give the floor to the main speaker of the 500 class, Aaron Speaker.
They say no matter how much the products are in the high, they will always remain behind. This is exactly the contemporary practice. Many slow learners in the fast-paced medical system because the system do not and cannot carry every student along. When we say that AI should replace the lecturers in the preclinical, we do not say so because it's fancy. We say so because it is justice to the slow learners, to the fast learners, and to the lecturers who are constantly burdened with overlapping schedules constantly. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris Foley, standing behind for class 2027 in favor of the motion. This house believes that AI should replace traditional lecturers with clinical medical education. Before I proceed, definition of some key terms in the motion. AI tutors refer to computer programs that are designed to simulate the role of human lecturers. They have 4 key components. The first component of AI tutors is called the knowledge model, which refers to the database containing all the information about all the various subject areas, anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, etc. The second component, called the student model, refers to the system that allows the AI tutor to track the individual progress, strengths, and weaknesses of each and every student. The third component of AI tutors refers to the pedagogical model, and this refers to the component that determines the specific teaching strategy preferred by each and every student. And the final component, called the interface, is a platform that allows for AI to interact with the student either through voice or text. Traditional lecturers are human beings with advanced professional knowledge. But because they are human beings, it means they can get tired of talking for hours, or frustrated if students don't understand simple concepts like the Krebs cycle, or they don't have all day to track the learning progress, strengths, and weaknesses of thousands of students in the preclinical education in that regard. Panel, what this debate should not be about. Firstly, we don't think this debate should be about lecturers losing their jobs. Because let's be frank, most of the lecturers who teach in the preclinical areas are also lecturers in the clinical area. That means you release their efforts in the preclinical area doesn't mean they become jobless. Moreover, some of them are researchers who have businesses, they can focus on that in that regard. We don't think this debate should be about AI can make mistakes. Because newsflash, human beings make mistakes too. But the probability of rectifying the mistakes made by AI is higher because we can reprogram mistakes made by AI
But you can't reprogram prophecy or Dr. Ajay to make a mistake in that regard. Just as cows do not spare and cockroaches force into their midst, they will not spare our opponent the delusional possibilities as they are in the debate. The first case for the motion is replacing preclinical lectures with AI teachers ensures standardization of medical education. In stethoscope, a medical student's foundation is highly dependent on the pedagogical skill and subjective focus of their self-reflection. Two lectures are never the same even if they are both physiology professors, because one might have a vested interest in renal physiology and the other in cardiac physiology. The reason why that is problematic is because lectures often spend exaggerated amount of time on the areas of their expertise. And physiology lecturer who is into renal physiology might spend disproportionate time on the nerves while skipping over the cardiovascular system, even though both areas are equally important to the medical student. The reason why that is problematic is that it creates knowledge gap for students in the clinical areas because they lack the areas that their lecturer refuse to focus on because of their specialty in that regard. An AI tutor, on the other hand, can be programmed with curriculum which is designed and approved by the International Association of Medical Regulatory Authorities, which ensures that every medical student, regardless of their institution or geographical location, receive exactly the same amount of knowledge in that regard. This argument is supported by a research done by Chen et al. In 2023, which discovered that the use of AI tutors decreased the variation of students' test scores by as much as 62%. Moreover, another research which was conducted by Patel et al. In 2022 across 27 countries found out that even when medical schools use the same syllabi and the same textbooks, that the interpretational differences of the same material due to the focus of lectures created a variation of 14 to 35% in students' comprehension of the material. This fact alone is enough to recalibrate the neural connection of my opponent. A simple president that continues, so let's move on to the next one. The same case for the motion is that the replacement of practical lectures with AI tutors reduces the burden of lectures and optimizes the obligation of human resource. By automating the practical years, medical schools can now concentrate their human resources on the clinical years where mentorship is irreplaceable by AI in that regard. The chair, practical education is largely to that. It does not require the nuanced art of medicine yet. Because let's face it, the blood supply to the bicep muscle or the components of the breakdown plexus are facts that an AI can replicate more than skill of us sitting here. But in the clinical year, when you are faced with the decision of deciding whether to administer oxygen to a newborn baby or a dying old man, it's an ethical dilemma that we need the focus of human lectures for. So when we take away lectures in the practical areas, we now divert our attention to the clinical areas where they are very much needed in that regard. Students often struggle in the clinical years because their lectures are too busy with conflicting schedules between clinical and practical areas, and that is very problematic. There are even some lectures that lecture with 200, 300, 400, 500, maybe they are going to solve that problem by replacing their efforts in that regard. The American Association of Medical Colleges reported in 2026 that preclinical faculty experienced burnout rate between 29% and 39%. And another study by Dave and Sullivan in 2026 also reported the depression rates of 12 and 18% among preclinical lectures because of the overload of their responsibilities in that regard. The chair, replacement of preclinical faculty by AI tutors benefits the students, the lecturers themselves, and improve our role quality of the system. They say a Lawrence Library case review are broad enough to let the case begin. Artificial intelligence, which refers to the ability of computer algorithms to simulate certain aspects of human intelligence, has come a long way since its inception in the 1950s. Currently, AI has been integrated into multiple systems. We have automatic navigation systems, self-driving cars. We have in medicine, it is being used to interpret scans, to help the doctors, and that. Even right now in university, students are using AI to help supplement what they get from lectures. And so when we should be clear, we did not come here to come and say that AI should be integrated into medical education. We are painting a world where we are already using AI. So now the question is, why are you removing the human beings to come and put just AI into the classrooms? We know better. Human beings plus AI, we know better. Why remove the human beings? Again, my opponents argue AI should remove lecturers from classrooms and thus create human beings, doctors who are fully fledged dependent on AI. This goes against the exact foundation of what medicine says. Medicine says you should be critical thinkers. Do not depend on something that says, yes, I will explain again for answers. No. And so, by saying AI should replace human lecturers, verbiage should implies there is a certain consequence. There's a certain consequence when the notion is not listening, the notion is not adopted. Does it mean my opponents want to say tomorrow when I go to my next anatomy practical class, the presence of Dr. J in that anatomy laboratory poses a serious threat to my anatomy education? And my opponents say that if an algorithm had handled psychological basis of health better, I would have loved the subject better than when Professor Enim did. Certainly, I argue AI should be replaced by human lectures based on these facts. The first being that human lectures, the first fact is that human lectures bring way more than passive knowledge transfer to the table of education. This is something AI excels at. AI is not a GS2 teacher. All AI does is that AI has access to the information. And so when you ask AI a question, it will give you the answer to the question. That we call it passive knowledge transfer. And I have research that suggests that passive knowledge transfer has been shown to erode critical thinking. It erodes reflective reasoning. It erodes independent analysis. And it erodes your own confidence when you make a clinical diagnosis. But who can tell? I have the DOI to the certificate when my opponents go to medical committee. The etymology of education, like I said, suggests that through education, the leading individuals down the path of knowledge discovery. When you come to class and your teacher tells you, take this one as an assignment. This question you asked me, I do not know, and so I am going to learn. What they have done is to ensure that when you go home, you also go and research. This is exactly the type of behavior you want in banking doctors. You want a system that doesn't tell you to go and learn. All it tells you is this is the answer you wanted and they have given it to you. No. Even beyond this, even beyond personality transfer, pre-clinical education, which my opponents do not acknowledge, involves more than theory. It involves certain practical skills. We go up there to skills lab, we go to the anatomy lab, and they're telling you currently, on the 27th of April, there exists an AI system that when in a lab detects that there could be an imminent danger or risk or hazard, will be quick to be on the streets to go and help students. My second point is this. AI in its current state is error-proof, as my colleagues have stated. They attempted to calculate the amount of errors which AI has. My opponents also attempted to sell us an idea that these hallucinations are dependent on data AI was fed on. But I'll tell you, this is just half the story. On the topic of machine learning, Banerjee et al. In their paper title, opponents, will you listen to this title? LLMs, large language models, will always hallucinate. We need to deal with this. Quite an interesting heading. It says that, and I quote, it is therefore impossible to eliminate errors through architectural improvements. We cannot remove AI hallucinations. They are a part of its architecture. Again, the DOI is here for the article if you want to read it. But human lecturers, when they come to class, they present themselves as systems that do not know everything, forcing you to go and research. AI presents itself as a system that knows everything, and then the worst part is its lies are embedded in truth. And so you don't know when AI lied to you, you will know it one day level 400. Again, traditional lecturers bring more to the table than just knowledge transfer. They bring themselves serve as mirrors, mirrors of ethics, mirrors of mentorship, mirrors of the type of empathy your patients expect you to have when you sit before them in the diagnostics room. Because a good doctor isn't somebody who has memorized Grey's Anatomy, otherwise you should be charging in the hospital because he knows everything. It is a person who knows Grey's Anatomy and still remembers that his purpose is to never create pain to a patient through his words and through his actions. We learn this from class. Through their faults, we learn what takes human beings. We learn that some attitudes shouldn't be portrayed to patients because we ourselves do not like them. We learn empathy. In empathy class, when the teacher tells you the consequences of the last decision you had on a patient, you learn it. And so, by dealing with your kids, by dealing with your classmates, and this is another fundamental thing we are well attention to. Now let me tell you, imagine you have your own personalized AI chatbot platform. What incentive is there to come to class? Please tell me. What incentive is there to come to class when I have my own AI chatbot platform I'm logging to learn? What this does is it has removed human interaction from pre-clinical medical education. It has removed the lessons I learned from my friends. It has removed the opportunity to learn from their questions and not my questions alone. Lastly, to contextualize the argument, again, you see, this argument is a Ghanaian one. The consequences of this debate will not affect Harvard Medical School. It will affect UPS Medical School. It will affect UCC Medical School. So let's come to Ghana. Let's look at Ghana's current infrastructure and let's see if we have the resource needed to power such a bold move in the wrong direction. I put it to the heart that we do not have the infrastructure needed to implement AI as the sole means of clinical lectures.
Your time is up.
Speaking session with the rebuttals. So, speaking for the motion is Chanel Hatta.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chanel Hatta, the second speaker for the motion, representing the level 500 class. The motion today is not removing human mentorship. It's about replacing the information delivery mechanism in the big. They try to throw. We agree, but you can't have empathy on a slide projected on a citric cycle, rather than empathy on the word. The opposition too will try to say that AI makes mistakes. So do humans, but you can catch AI in minutes. But you cannot catch 200 film students who forgot the dosage or what the wrong dosage of paracetamol. Mr. Chairman, in addition to the already established fact by my colleague, the third information that supports the emotion on ground is that AI solves the access crisis leading African medical education drive. We will see that Ghana has 9 medical schools, 33 people. In university, pre-clinical students lecture ratio is 45:1. UCC, our last school, is 172 students is to 1. That is my education. That is the next subscription we know. Changing to a polio because it's tradition isn't tradition, rather it's a denial. Mr. Chair, in addition Kofi is a fast learner. Yeah, these 3 to 4 hours as a really learner to understand the same concept. What then will the traditional lecturer do? They just give them a maximum of 2 hours. Kofi is not in the class. Yeah, it's supposed to be $1. Both of them are. The AI tutors adapt to the different learning skills. But as compared to a traditional lecturer, who becomes comfortable when his 200, 50% of his 200 students get the concept, but the 50% do not get it. I therefore advocate the remaining 50% who will also become lecturers in the future. So that patients also die because they didn't understand their concept when they taught in class. Patients, his lectures teach patients in average, but patients don't come in average, they come in cardiac arrest. And I will share, we are showing you 4 children which we cannot deny. AI says it's one. AI says the standard of learning. Students are going to work at the same standard, regional medical education, irrespective of their geographical location. Case 2, AI solves the issues of burnout in preclinical lectures. Case 3 is that AI personalized learning, and case 4 is the last case is that AI solves access crisis. So these students to one lecture is a ratio, it is crisis. And when that crisis kills, we do not blame the syllabus, rather we blame ourselves, which is the doctor. We propose therefore we are proud. Thank you.
So watch and write notes and hopefully you do better in it. We are here to we are here to debate whether silicon chips can replace human brains in the lecture hall. Well, we will not lie. The AI can memorize letters in 2 seconds, but has never taught what a nerve is like. Can never program shaking hands out of a student holding a scaffold. And this is where the world is terrible and we wouldn't want that for the future. So now, we know that Dr. Shea, that's this effortless. AI can give you a P-value, but only a human nature can teach you value, empathy, intuition, and the shared neural pathways. That's a student and physician. With that said, Chair, AI can never, should never be viewed as a replacement for human nature because it doesn't really have the capacity. Now, let me tell you why property is losing today's thoughts. Firstly, they weren't able to cover their value, which is one. Explain to us how bad status quo is and why a huge reform is required. 2, they must prove that human lectures are failing so significantly that they are no longer fit for purpose and should be replaced. You didn't do it. They must prove that AI trained students in the preclinical years are better on the hybrid system. They must prove that a student can develop a professional identity and mentorship without a human role model during the conversation. Now, we are going to tell you why we are weakening from property because we have already moved a lot of things. Already by manifest gap and I praise you for that. Now, let's get to the argument for okay. The first thing they say is that efficiency, justice is slowness, tracking of students and teaching strategies. My opening clearly does not understand that education is not just about knowledge transfer. It's a lot more than that. My first thing that shows you that education is inking out, drawing out potential from students. Your world lacks that, and that is why it's a terrible world you don't proceed to. Now, in our world, AI still exists for the slowness you are talking about. AI still exists and they can go back to their notes, go back to the Gemini and the rest. And then, if they think because they will ask everyone to make sure that everyone understands what is happening. Which is why you are preaching your word. In case now what is so better like now, this is what we are saying. That you couldn't prove to us that we should do lectures and time. But we are putting to your work will exist, which is why our highly esteemed daughter and his wife, after the world bring your question, still goes to class for them. What you said was that AI is more accountable, and then you cannot go and talk to the professor when you lie. You show them papers, you show them evidence that you said something last was wrong. They have no reason to deny it, and they are going to accept. But what will Gemini tell you? Gemini will lie confidently and will start. This is what we don't consist. We are not training doctors who are going to trust it. Because in fact, you don't even paint what the world looks like. You are telling us that we should watch anatomy now, the dissection, we see pretty cadavers. Where you can actually reset if you do nothing, you do something wrong with a cadaver, you can reset and start the whole thing again. We are treating those followers accountable because we know that if you cut a nail, the nail is wrong for it. You don't tell us to work. You say something as illogical. A lot of lectures are going to focus on other things that we are not specializing in. How many lectures are we being taught in our curriculum alone that exist in my church department alone? You think that lectures are assigned topics for fun or for whatever? We believe that these lectures are assigned these topics because they are good at the practitioner. That is why when you preach about lectures not being able to teach what they are not specialized, it's very, very unrealistic. And we don't have to do it. Now, let's look at the knowledge that we are talking about. Now, your problem is that you think that preclinical is largely didactic. Now, what we also say from our world is that explain course, explain PDL. You will have Gemini follow you to Pakistan to go and teach you. Because then students are going to be just Gemini doctors. It will be fair. We don't have to do some one active research. We want students to have.
So the judges will tally the score, and this will ask them to exit the stage for us. So let's do that one more time. Kindly come to the extreme left. All the students, so we'll give the judges a few minutes to tally the score. So also do that, we have in our presence, we need to make a quick introduction to one honorable member that has just joined us. So in our presence, we have the patron for the Medical Students Association, was also the former vice dean for the school. I'm sure for a number of you, it's a new face, okay, but now he's back, now he's joining us again. It's the person of Professor Leonard Dechikwa. Okay. Alright, so guess what will happen? Ideally, we scheduled this to be run for all the 8 classes. So as we said, those level 600 have got clinical duties and are not around. the 300s are also currently on hobbies, so it means that we have 6 classes. And you know, the debate is either for or against the motion. What will happen now is that we'll have the top 3 scoring teams, which is the winner for each of the debates. So the winner for the 400 and 200, the winner for 100 and 300, the winner for the 500 and then the 250. Then we'll have the each of them will go through, means they're qualified for the next round. But because we cannot have the debates among the 3 of them, what we'll do is that we'll have the lowest scoring for these 2 winners joining the 3 that were not able to make it to have the next round, which is the semi-finals. Whoever will win from that will join the top 2 who has already qualified to have the final round. Is that clear? Alright. So we'd like to support us. Because of time, we'll make some changes to the rules. Let's make a few changes to the rules. So instead of the main speaker having 7 minutes, the main speaker will have 5 minutes, and the rebuttals will be 3 minutes. So at this point, we'll give the floor to Professor Ibrahim, who's going to say a few words and then announce the scores to us. Are you ready? Are you all ready? Alright, so I'll give the floor to Ron.
Okay. So all the levels have done very well. Okay. The numbers will tell that is very well. No one will say before we go into the announcement of the course, I'll just give you a brief of what I think about my own debate. Interestingly, some of the classes that were supposed to speak for were speaking more against than for. And then others were just doing the rebuttal instead of going to their main argument. I think that those who go to the next level have to take note of that and then go straight to the main points while also do your rebuttal.
Okay, thank you very much. I would also like to point out some few things. Mostly, I think it's from the research perspective, and I also understand it because artificial intelligence is new and most of you are not familiar, so I get it. But one thing that's missing, most of you couldn't separate yes. So other factors, there's a difference between Gen AI and artificial intelligence in general. So most of you just artificial intelligence and that's just one umbrella thing. So please, when you are making the next group, pay attention to, are we talking about generative AI, which has the capacity to generate image, text, and so on, like we have for Gemini, Claude, and Co. Or you are talking about artificial intelligence in general, which includes the machine learning, supervised and unsupervised learning, and all that. Okay, so thank you very much. I will give you to Rob.
Okay, so for the first part, our president said the first four will go to the next debate. So I'll start from level 100. So the total from both judges and it's 100%. 168.75. Level 200, 58.55. Level 300, 59.35. I'm sure by now you are 455. Then 250. 82. So we will show So we are going to discuss topic that is medical students who use AI to generate clinical case summaries are cheating themselves out of core diagnostic reasoning skills. Medical students who use AI to generate clinical case summaries are cheating themselves out of core diagnostic reasoning skills. So after this four, we will pick the best two for the final round and then we're done. So the main speakers will have 5 minutes and the matters will have 3 minutes. I hope the debaters are listening to the debate topic I'm going over. Medical students who use AI to generate medical case summaries are cheating themselves out of core diagnostic reasoning skills. So those 4 in our basic applies. So the debaters should prepare themselves. So prepare to ballot so that you know whether you are speaking for or against.
Thank you.
please resume your seats. Supporters, please resume your seats while the teachers. Guys, we are running on the loose for my identity. Let's make this happen before the lights goes on. Okay. Supporters, please resume your seats. Supporters, resume your seats. Alright. So at this point, so the real deal is about to start. So just as we said earlier, we have semi-finals featuring level 100, level 300, game 250, and level 500. We have two contests for the semi-finals. The first one between level 100 and level 500. The second one between level 300 and game 250. So without wasting much time, we'll start with that for the first contest. So speaking for the motion is level 100, and speaking against the motion is level 500. Speakers for level 100 for the motion, please take a seat on my extreme left. Against the motion, please take a seat on my right. All right. What that means is that the winners of each of these contests will move straight to the finals. Alright. Let's bring the noise level down. So we start.
They are not able to start.
So whilst we find out, the second judge will get started. On the ones and twos is DJ Phoebe, serving us with some hot tunes.
I don't want to work on myself with other cases. So I just move on with the answer that I can give you, going on to the next. Next, the AI focuses on pre-existing cases. We must all know that the world is frequently changing around us. What was always there will not always be the same. You have change, sometimes change is not good. A new disease might come out. When COVID-19 was around, AI was still on the uprising, but still, it required the cognitive interest of the practitioners to develop vaccinations, to help treat, in order to develop regulations to keep humanity safe, in order to ensure continuity and reduce the reduction in the population. Next, AI presents a false mastery. When the AI gives you an answer, when the AI gives you certain symptoms, and before you finally go through a similar question, you feel like, okay, I'm passing this now. But in actual sense, you not actually go through it, it's just reframing a question that you did before by a different way. If you have recognized and just giving an answer, you don't have self-confidence. And when you are up against an actual patient, when the patient is depending on your promptness, on your critique, on your ability to stay calm when the patient is high, sure, the patient can come, okay. So the eye is one, maybe bleeding all over. As a diagnostic person, as a practitioner, you must remain informed in order to relatively distinguish between what is positive and the possibilities. Because you cannot treat the person without first finding out what is wrong with the person. On this note, I end from the position, so I thank you.
The world is changing fast. Those who cling to the traditional methods of doing things will constantly be locked up in history. 50 years ago, lecturers were not teaching students with PowerPoints. They came to classes with notebooks and wrote on their boards. Advancement in technology is an irreplaceable development in society. So the question for us today as medical students is to ask ourselves whether we want to hop on to the latest development and impress ourselves, or we want to stay locked up in 1950. We say no. There are 5 cases I'm going to run against the motion. The first case is that the use of AI for case summary enhances learning. And let's be clear. Using AI to summarize cases doesn't mean AI is the only tool medical students use for learning. Because beyond a summary, medical students still have textbooks that they can use to learn. They still have YouTube videos they can resort to watching. They still have articles that they can read, among other things. You need to prove to us why simply using an AI tool for summary means that medical students don't learn at all. AI can serve as a valuable supplemental tool that enhances understanding. They can provide summaries, highlight key points, and present complex information in a more digestible format compared to complexity that exists in articles, among other things. Example, a medical student who is using an AI generated summary for complex conditions like diabetes can quickly grasp the key management strategies and symptoms, allowing them to focus on understanding the pathology rather than just memorizing the class in that regard. Second case, we think that the use of AI increases access to diverse perspectives, noting that AI can provide access to a wide variety of case studies and perspectives that a single student may not ever encounter. And let's be clear, AIs are constantly updated. If obviously the reason he made that argument was because he's using an unpaid version. The paid and approved version of most AIs are constantly being updated. That means that you have access to the latest advancement in any scientific field. You have access to articles that were published in the last week in that regard. That you have access to the latest information in a very diverse manner. For example, an AI tool can summarize rare diseases or typical presentation of common disease conditions, which is given in a way that most textbooks, which are, for instance, last updated in 2016, might not give that big update. Thirdly, we think that the use of AI for case summary enhances and skill development of medical students. And here's why. Using AI in a responsive manner can help students develop their diagnostic skills. They can ask questions. they can seek clarification and explore different perspectives. You can ask your book a question, you cannot ask an article a question, or you can ask an AI question and have access to latest knowledge that is approved by the scientific community in that particular regard. All you need is the right prompt and the right kind of AI to in that regard. Fourth argument, we think that the use of AI has some real-world application in that regard. Notice that AI-generated summaries can help bridge the gap between theoretical knowledge and real-life practical application, allowing students to see how concepts are applied in real life. Again, I see most of the instances, textbooks are simply not up in time. The book was published in 2015. They have access to the technology in 2015, unlike AI that is constantly updated in that particular regard. So if there was a real-life invention, for instance, there was a book published in 2012, it means that book did not contain information about COVID-19 because COVID-19 came after 2012 in that regard. We think that we better bridge that down and provide access to real-life application of timely information in that regard. The final thing is against the notion that the use of AI to generate summaries encourages collaboration among students, right? Because AI can facilitate collaborative learning among students, encouraging them to discuss and critique AI-generated summaries. The reason we can say AI lies is because we can compare it with the fact that we have, or we can discuss with other students who are equally involved in that regard. It doesn't mean that because the AI summarizes, that means that swallowing everything, hook, line, and sinker. I don't think medical students are that dumb. That can be the debate. Whether or not that within the use of AI-generated summaries is an additive tool, a supplementation to the already existing strategies we learn, while supplementing that with the notes we take from class, supplementing that with the notes we take from reading articles, supplementing that with the notes we take from our textbook. Lazy students are the ones who only think AI is the only source. We don't know what that is how to propose.
They lack an understanding of exactly the emotions. Now, the emotion is, they lack listening skills as well, because clearly pointed out that these are generated. The AI here, they are used to generate the AI here, we are saying that they are generating case. So it's clear that they are generating AI, and then there's a huge shot of fallback that is generating AI have. And then someone pointed out that they highly hallucinate. And then there's these problems with them keeping up with current information and tracks. Now, he mentioned that traditional methods are outdated and we should apply the new ones. But if you have a new method that is not solving any really big problem, and it's having a lot of problems, so why would you want to fix a system that is not working with something that is working? Now, I want to point out that they mentioned the fact that AI changes fast and that it's able to adapt to new things. But when COVID-19 came, AI had not been updated with what entails COVID-19 cases. Like what should you use, what should you check to actually diagnose that? AI was not updated on this. But you are telling me that AI is updated and track all these things. But then you don't understand what the motion is asking. The motion is saying that you're using this generative AI, you're letting the students rely on this generative AI to make cases and then diagnose the flow. You're supposed to stick with the system that is already working for us. The core diagnostic reading skills highlight the fact that students are able to identify problems. They're able to properly think about what they have, their findings. Now, if AI is the one identifying the problem for them, students are not getting this core identity. The core identity because students are not getting the identity because you're having the AI doing that for them. It's identifying the problem for them. And the core diagnostic reading skills clearly say that students have to identify problems, so they have to build that capacity. Now, you can't use AI in support when you don't understand the foundation. The foundation is that you need to, by your own self, see that, oh, these are the symptoms and this is how I should diagnose it. But if you are letting AI begin that foundation for you and you are just continuing in line, you are being spoon-fed. So what happens when AI goes? Well, what happens when they are hacked to AI? That's when you can no longer diagnose patients. No, you have to make good of your system that's not working for you. Not use your own system to replace what's not already good. You can't use your own system to replace a system that's already working. That's already allowing students to pay this time. That is already helping us in the medical field right now. Thank you.
Good day once again. My name is Sharon. I'm the second speaker of the motion. Our position is that students passively accept AI, but the strongest pedagogical use of AI is interactiveness. That is, students use AI to test their clinical reasoning. That is not cheating, that is active learning. AI ensures efficiency, which deepens learning on more cases. Medical students have limited time, which is just 6 years. Manually writing summaries of every case each time you go to the ward is just like a time stick, which has a bomb. We using AI just gives you deeper understanding. Article by Yoshi AI, article by Yoshi in 2025 stated that AI helps to deep learning and also leverages machine learning. That is, over a 12-week lecture, a student uses AI to generate 50 summaries and spend the rest of the day explaining the why and the reason why this is the issue. It helps to analyze and predict disease patterns and not just grabbing lectures as it is. I therefore ask, which one is cheating? The only thing you are cheating is yourself of the future when your diagnostic skills are sharper than your handwriting. Thank you.
All right. So we've had letters for level 100 and level 500. I think they deserve another round of applause. The underdogs, we are all in the semi-finals. Our soon-to-be finalists competing against the level 100s. So at this point, I'll ask them to exit the stage. I'll ask the people for the next. Thank you, DJ for your wonderful playlist. At this point, I'll invite the second set of finalists, level 300 and then 250. The 250 is put against the motion, and then the 300 is looking for the motion. That was much time. I'll hand over the microphone to Owen to speak.
Starting my speech in the motion means medical students who use AI to create medical treatment are achieving results of medical practice. First of all, we need to understand that these things are not a destination, and the fact that we work on the time of the whole new term. So we need to also identify what exactly case summary. So case summaries are patient chief complaints and then issue of representative complaints. What we need to understand is that they already come with their already formed diagnosis. That also removes the fact that these students will actually have to create or even have to generate differential diagnosis. And
that's the first thing. So the first thing, or affect argument is going to increase the cases of medical abuse, right? Because if you go patients, what do you get that? They're all giving some form of early or increases in diabetes. And then secondly, they're atypical patterns. Maybe you could meet someone who is not supposed to be mentioned as like already mentioned. But because the AI focuses on typical information, it's going to stay that. That's the first thing we understand. And also, this is our main point. The fact that it's going to turn reasoning into recognition. And this is going to feed directly into the main aspect. The first of all, the brain has two modes, the generative mode and the recognition mode. At the point where you are going to exposing your brain to desirable factor, your brain is going to shut down that generative pattern. That means that in that sense, you're going to train your brain to just recognize patterns. You're not going to train your brain to generate activity. That means that necessarily you're not going to have any differential calculus. This is class correlation. At the point where you give your face diagnosis and it doesn't count, it's not right. There's no safety net for you giving the different diagnosis. Right? Why is it necessarily bad? Why is it necessarily bad? We think this is necessarily bad in emergency cases like emergency medicine. This is very fun. You're not going to get a detailed summary of the cases. This is very bad. We have to think of it and actually bring out that. At the point where you're just used to summary, this is going to be good. This also goes back to the question. This also necessarily goes back to how the brain. It means you're going to be training one. Doctors who are not competent enough to generate based on that. And then necessarily you're only going to train doctors that will be competent. What where there is clear. Also, we need to understand that there will be some cases of delay from this diagnosis. Because necessarily not all diagnoses will be the same. Because there are early diagnoses and late diagnoses, right? At the point where the AI is just expressing cases of just late diagnosis, we need to miss out on early diagnosis. But then also we need to understand that there's also a point of access that exists in the AI. Now, before you express this in identity, the fact that we use clean data sets for bias. So that means that at the point where the AI is going to generate the same information, the doctors are also going to just work on these biases. We also need to back up this. We understand that these AIs are necessarily going to be based that when students start to go to the website, we need to understand that at the point of the examination, at the point of the examination, students necessarily have this method who are relying on this information. So at the point where they know that okay, they do need to go to the information, I'm going to find more and more students asking skipping the clinic to necessarily use the AI because they think that's the best option. That means even if opposition comes to say, oh, we go to the clinic and everything, before you should be satisfied how people be. Before you should be satisfied how people skipping is starting about relying on the AI. So the bad and the very negative impact of this campaign, we also need to get that patients don't necessarily want into the world with letter A, B, C, D option where they have to choose. It's the doctor that has to do that job of necessarily listening to them and getting that result. That means that if you're doing this is the point where you're cheating themselves. And they're not just cheating themselves, they're cheating the patient as well. I'm going to have a healthcare society that the doctors are not competent enough to get that. And then to the patients themselves are going to be recognized as AI because their point is like, the lectures are already doing that. The patients are the doctors are already doing that in that regard. So why not I do that? That's going to affect the health scheme behavior of these patients. Because they don't believe the healthcare system, they're going to even stay at home. And that's even going to affect the way they get. So in our world, we prepare that all of these medical science exist. We need to understand that we don't want it to just be a main form of exercise. That means that these kind of apps we actually scale down. And then more clinical bedside diagnosis. What my partner is going to do is going to emphasize on the points and explain how the identity exists more in our India than our world. But at least in our world, we are able to understand that these two go hand in hand. I've already explained to you the risk of dependency on your lifestyle. And I've already explained how necessarily going to impact the behavior of patients in that regard. If you buy into a position for that means that one, you have to the fact that patients actually have some kind of credit to even seek help in that sense. And this is why we're doing this.
The fact of the matter is current reality.
Okay. The fact of the matter is, the use of summaries, clinical summaries, to help in medical learning, they not start today. Take our clinical students. They have handbooks, they have textbooks, in which inside these textbooks, there are already summaries. Because the aim of a summary is to present information to you in a streamlined manner, and then now you do the most important thing, which is using all this information now to make a diagnosis. The presence of the summary inside the textbook did not erode clinical diagnostic skills. They did. Why, therefore, are we using AI? Why, therefore, are you arguing that using AI, which is going to present us with fresh skills, more cases, fresh cases and more cases, you are arguing it is going to erode our diagnostic skills? Again, let me bring this argument up. In the United States, current hospitals display banners which want any client that the doctors they are going to meet are using AI to treat you. AI is listening. In Ghana, we don't do that. In Ghana, we don't have clients have got to use AI. And so in hospitals, we are not going to use AI in the hospital premises to generate clinical case samples. What is happening is that students are going to use AI when they go back home to compare the samples they generated whilst in the hospitals, to find proof and to proofread what they have already generated. Because the reality is, in the hospital, you are not going to read an AI summary to your consultant. You are not going to read an AI summary to your lecturer. In the hospital, in front of you, you need to use your head to generate one. When you go home, you have the opportunity to now give AI those things to refine for you so that you can learn better. The next point is that during examination periods, again, students need material to learn. Let me ask my opponents. In secondary school, did you use past questions to study? If you did the past questions destroy your solving skills? The past questions just serve as an avenue to give you questions to learn. During revision periods, during examination periods, we are going to use AI-generated summaries to provide you with fresh cases and fresh summaries to just hone the skills you already have. Again, there is research that actually argues the opposite. Ability says that generative AI is actually, after doing a meta-analysis of multiple cases, their conclusion was that it is actually helping the students. This is research. And so, to summarize everything I'm saying, using AI to generate case summaries can cover two main domains. One, we are going to use them to hone the ones we already developed whilst in the hospitals when we are at home. The second is that AI gives us fresh cases because, let's face it, a clinical student has already read through the 50 case summaries in his outdated textbook. He wants new ones. AI is going to analyze what already exists via its databases to give you new ones that you didn't use previously to learn. Because anytime you use old stuff to learn, you see yourself that you understand the concept. You are faced with a fresh case that you don't need to while preparing, and now you are confused. AI is going to be there to give you new cases constantly. Why then are we removing AI? And so, I hope our job as an opposition has shown that AI summaries are not there to replace basic summaries of exam.
So we have the last set of speakers. It will be the rebuttals for each of the class. So we will get the results from our impartial judges. So that was question about invite Kingsley to speak for 3 minutes.
I start my speech in 3, 2, 1. But I understand one thing, that the cases are not the destination, but the cases are where the analysis are done. What this then means is that at the point where you easily go to the case and bring up the diagnosis, it means that necessarily you are building a self-confidence that even in emergency and uncertainties, you can give a response. First thing, now, on the case of uncertainty, understand that there are things like internet intermittent. There will be always internet. Secondly, information should not be constantly there. But then, the reliability on this kind of sources are what I will tell you that they are not reliable. But why is this true? It is true because of one, the biases that comes with this system. But secondly, it is the recognition patterns that are created in the mind of this individual. What this then means is that when the person sees this kind of things every time, it creates that ideology of he knows what it's about, but necessarily he doesn't understand why it came about. What this then means is that in the case where, like emergencies, where we need a person to quickly go through something and give an outcome, the person will be found wanting because at that emergency can't give an outcome. And that's why what I think is very, very important in today's debate, because the moment you will be able to learn clinical cases on your own and be able to make diagnosis and building confidence at the point where you are in a tight situation on emergencies, you can do that. But what you get from this slide is that, case summaries does not involve diagnosis criticism. What Calvin tells you is that they didn't rebut the characterization he gave. He told you that the characterization is that these 6 stems have diagnosis. What it means is that before the summary has come, they have likely diagnosis that they are coming with. This body didn't rebut that. It means they consider to that fact. It means that in and of itself, that recognition is there, and that's why we think it is bad, right? Because one, the misdiagnosis will come in the point of pressure because you can't see the nuances in some of the cases that are presented. But secondly, it is very important because as time goes on, as I will tell you, there are new cases that we around. The new cases that come are not immediately put in the AI system that this person is trying to talk about, right? Because the cases have to be present because before they are learning to this system. What I will tell you is that you go to a clinic hospital and you meet up with a whole new case. That is why from time to time trials are good because there are new cases that come in and of itself. That is why we think it is very important that even on your feet you can make this diagnosis and come up in emergency and be able to give outcome. The impact you get from our side is that at every point in time you get better outcome and the patient has
So we'll take the very last speaker for the semi-finals.
The chair that has I just want to ask my opponent one question. Have you held TC Anchor before? If you have, you would know that clinical summaries are in there and it has never produced value. Secondly, we are trying to produce world-class doctors, but my opponent wants to remain malaria doctors. How come? Cases are definitely not destination, like you said, but we show you how in our world, students will still defend their diagnosis as one drug because you will suck if you are not thinking as one. Which is why in our world we still gain the thinking, we still gain the clinical judgment. As opposed to law where no one says to use AI, they will still not come out with the right diagnosis because they are in the community listening as chatbot is interactive and students use this to justify because you also go and justify to your consultant as to why you are saying a particular diagnosis. You will learn and understand why an AI is suggesting a particular diagnosis. Second, in this case diagnosis, I really don't find the logical ideology behind what you are saying. But then it's even better in our world because in our world we don't get into malaria. We'll give it to our we'll give you other complex diagnosis. Even aside malaria. Just because for the malaria, listen, my partner clearly showed you. And AI would in fact in our system we don't even know. And the student cannot understand what
Thank you.
You know him. Yeah, you know him.
Alright, so at this point, I'd like to say a very big thank you to our impartial judges. Let's give it up for them, Professor Emmanuel Champo, Dr. Ernest Adam, for their invaluable adjudications. That they're putting apart the results as right. So let our IT, the technical team, check the results for us one final time. Also, would like to present the thank you to my secretary for my and of course, the entire executive board of the Medical Students Association, largely the organizing secretary, Honorable Sheila, Mama Producer, wherever you are, Sheila, please put this together. And then to our finalists, the level 500 and negative class, we'll meet in a few weeks' time, and then we'll battle it out at a much bigger stage with more people and more scholars to come on board for us to separate the boys from the men. Kudos to all of you for taking part, for coming to support the classes and making this cycle.
Yes, we have default them. We have default them. Default. Default. What more than 1 month to pray over?
Please, hello, please, don't leave quietly. These of us in the chairs upstairs. Please, if you want to leave, come up to the teaching of America, okay? Okay, it's not possible the teaching of America. Okay. Please, this week, CMF wants to invite everybody to their revival to start on the Wednesday and end on Saturday.
These people who are peacefully go and prepare and come and cook. Peacefully.
Is there a car coming for this?
No, Lambert. Is there a car coming? No. Unless you ask her. Like, I'm sure they carry them, but right now they are all going unless we get a boy. Sheila, these are coming.
So what's at the other? Maybe I can't go back. So maybe your partner.
The church that they are praying to, you can't carry it unless you get a boy.